Well, I can't believe everyone that episode 101 is finally here. And I thought, let's kick off the next 100 reviews with a Joan Crawford picture. So tonight we're looking at Sudden Fear that came out in 1952. I'd never seen it before. It's directed by David Miller, and I would classify it as a drama, thriller, suspense picture. Definitely has a lot of suspense for sure. This had 4 Oscar nominations. Joan Crawford was nominated for Best Leading Woman. She did not win. Also, Jack Palance, who also co-stars, he could argue that he also starred in it. He was up for Best Supporting Actor. He did not win. And also, I will note that Best Costume Design was up for the Oscar this year. And I'm not surprised because Joan Crawford wears a lot of different outfits in this picture, but none of them won. So Joan Crawford, she plays a character named Myra Blaine. She's a famous playwright, extremely wealthy playwright. Jack Palance is also in this. This is our first Jack Palance picture to review in this channel. He's a great actor. A lot of people remember him from Shane. He's always kind of the scary, creepy guy, in my opinion. In fact, he was very creepy in this film. We also have Gloria Graham. She plays Irene, and I'll talk about her once we get into the picture. And also Bruce Bennett, I like to note him. He had a small role as well in this. So I was ready for a very creepy movie. I was thinking, man, this may be a horror picture with how it started, because I loved the beginning of it. It begins with I believe they're in New York. They're working on her new play, Myra's new play, and she's watching Jack Palance give his lines as the leading role in it. Very romantic lines. And the director says, "This guy's great. He's a great actor." And she says, he's a good actor, but he just doesn't have the look. He doesn't look like a Romeo, basically. So she has him fired. And then Jack Palance comes out, says something really rude to her, although she kind of had it coming for firing him just because of his looks. Says something really mean, storms off, and then we cut scene to, I guess the play was a big hit, and Myra is getting on a train to go back to San Francisco where she lives. And this is where, in my opinion, the movie started feeling sort of like Strangers on a Train, because she's on the train and she notices Jack Palance, his name is Lester in the film. She notices Lester Blaine getting on the train too. And she says, "Oh, hey, how are you?" And I just think Jack Palance has a creepy face. I don't know. I just think, some people may think he's good looking, but I just think he looks like a creep. So he comes in, he says, "Oh, hey, yeah, no hard feelings." And she offers to have him come in and have a drink in her train room. And the whole thing felt so awkward. How is it possible that he's there at the perfect place, perfect time? And I started to think, okay, is this going to turn into some sort of crazy psycho stalking film? And I started to feel nervous for her. I was worried for her. And you can even see that one of the train workers kind of has a look on his face. He's like, should I shut the door? Or, are you okay? And so basically they hit it off, but the whole time viewers are thinking something not quite is right here. Lester, there's a screw loose. But they hit it off, and we then see Jack Palance say, "Hey, how can I get a ticket to go all the way to San Francisco without her knowing?" And the whole time I was just worried for Myra. And then we cut scene. They make it all the way to San Francisco, and beautiful city, by the way. And they're in San Francisco, and you can already tell that they're in love, or that she's in love with him. And you start to see the manipulation by Lester and on Myra, because there's a point where she's going to throw a party for him, and he purposely doesn't go to the party because he wants to see, just to pull her chain to see, to pull on her feels. So she's freaking out. She goes over to his place, which he plans. He gets his bags. He says, "I don't belong in this world with you. You're too wealthy." And he's manipulating her. And basically that leads to them getting married, and because she falls for his lies, and they get married. And she's just so out of his league. In fact, it always felt weird when he was in the room with she and her friends, because I just think he has such a brute of a face, and he's just awkward. And she's this multimillionaire playwright, and he's just a struggling, crummy actor who's acting creepy. And then we go to this really cool scene where she shows him her audio recording machine, and she shows like, oh, you put the disc in a record, and when you start talking, it starts to record. When you stop talking, it stops, and then when you start talking again, it records. And it's interesting seeing the technology back then. And I want to note that we eventually learn, because Gloria Graham comes into the picture, this sort of bimbo blonde character. Her name is Irene in it, and she's dating someone. She's sort of dating someone, a friend of Myra, and she says she gets alone eventually with Lester, and it turns out that she's married to Lester. So Gloria Graham and Jack Palance are actually married, and then they start acting like thugs, like, what are you doing here? Like, what are you trying to ruin this for me? And we quickly see that that Lester is trying to get Myra's estate in some sort of way, which they both start to plot her death. They're going to murder her to get her estate. And this is, so the build up to that was so good. I was thinking, okay, it would be so interesting, so good if this movie was all about Jack Palance just trying to get his revenge on Myra for firing him as an actor. But it turns out that he's actually just a con man. He's a murderer con man. He's just trying to get her money. So it lost a lot of its creepy aspect, its scary aspect, when I learned that, oh, he's just trying to get her money. So then we get to see probably the best scene in the movie, where Myra, she overhears, because her recording machine had been turned on all day and it recorded a conversation between Irene and Lester, and they were talking about killing her and getting her money and just how much he hates Myra. So she listens. It's such a typical Joan Crawford scene, where it's just on her face and her eyes are getting big, and she's feeling that sudden fear. And it's a great scene when she's listening to the conversation. The whole time I was just like this, and she's having that sudden fear, that shock. It's almost it's like a panic attack. Back then, I don't even know if they had the word panic attack, but she's definitely having a panic attack. She's spiraling out of control. But after this, that was a great scene. This is where the movie there was a downfall for me, like the last hour or so of the movie, because right away she acts so stupid. She gets the record, she's trying to hide it, she's fumbling it, and then of course she breaks it. And I was so mad when I saw her do that. But what she continues to do throughout the whole picture just makes me so mad at her stupidity. She was too stupid for me, because she never tells anyone. She doesn't tell her lawyer friend. She doesn't tell anyone that these people are trying to kill her to get her estate. And it was so unbelievable. It was so stupid that she thinks, that she can take things in her own hands. It was like she was being Macaulay Culkin from Home Alone. Like, I'm going to plot how to get back at Lester because I fell for him. And like, it was just ridiculous at this point. But there are some beautiful scenes of San Francisco in this movie. You get some Hitchcock vibes, some Vertigo vibes. Because some of the scenes, I think, from Vertigo or locations were in this movie. But the plotting was just too much. It was ridiculous for me. There is a good scene, though, where she has a little vision of how her plot is going to be carried out successfully. And it was filmed in a clever way where she sees that she'll be the one to shoot Lester and Irene will be framed for his murder and she'll get away with it. But it ends in such a silly, comical car chase scene. And the whole time she's running in a fur with high heels on in the streets, and Lester's trying to run her over, and then she has to hide from him, and then she steps on a cat, and then she has to run again. And it was just such a stupid finale, in my opinion. I won't give the ultimate finale away, but the little twist at the very, very end. But it was good. But I will note that there was this vacation home earlier, midway in the picture, that's beautiful. It's on the coast, and I was thinking, okay, there's going to be some sort of climax that has to do with the vacation home. There's a steep staircase. He's probably going to fall down it in a very Hitchcock way. But they did nothing. They didn't do anything with the vacation home. So I don't understand why they even put that in there. I think it would have been better to use that location as for the finale. And again, her not telling her lawyer friend just angered me so much. So I'm going to give this picture a 2.5 stars for all those complaints that I just gave. And also, just because I wish the movie had been a, like I was saying earlier, sort of more of a scary movie where he's so upset that he was fired by her for his looks that he's just trying to get back at her and murder her. But it turns into this whole just trying to get her money scheme, and wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. But that first 45 minutes to an hour, very good. So 2.5 stars. I have an awesome picture. If you see the movie, you'll definitely know what this scene is. This is when she has her little vision of her carrying her plot out and finally killing Jack Palance. Of course, we know that she doesn't go through with it. And then we'll read some history on the book from this Joan Crawford biography. There's some good things. So from the start, Joan thought of Sudden Fear as her film, and with good reason. Joan had engaged as screenwriter the expert Lenore Coffey, who had written the dialogue for the 1931 Possessed. I haven't reviewed that one. I reviewed her other Possessed film. Joan hired David Miller, a journeyman director she trusted. Joan trusted the composer Elmer Bernstein as the right one to create a modern percussive score. Joan arranged for saucy Gloria Graham to play the role of an accomplice to murder. Joan insisted on Charles Lang, a master of black and white cinematography who had been nominated 8 times for an Oscar in that field. And just before filming began, Joan cast, with some initial doubts, Jack Palance as her leading man. He had taken over Marlon Brando's role in the Broadway production of A Streetcar Named Desiree, and followed that with an impressive performance in Panic in the Streets. Joan was not keen on Palance's style and his defensive of the so-called method acting, but she liked his sexy, sinister look and his insinuating tone of voice. Joan and her cast and crew were ready for location filming in San Francisco in January 1952. and they all scented the aroma of success. Quote, it's wonderful to be casting myself instead of accepting someone else's idea of who I should play, Joan told Time, but she revealed nothing of the story. In fact, a certain silence descended over this sudden fear, all during production, and Edna Sherry's agent and publisher were persuaded to delay the paperback reprint until after the movie was released. Crawford and Kaufman had come up with a budget of $720,000 for the picture, a sum possible only because Joan agreed to forego a salary and instead took 40% of the picture's profits, which she made a lot off of this. Within a year of its release, her accounts were enriched by more than $1 million. Let's see. Sudden Fear not only proved that Joan, not only proved Joan when she insisted she could carry out a producer's duties, it also proved her with a positive version of the badly written role she had played in, quote, in the movie This Woman is Dangerous. Let's see. The picture, independently produced under the Kaufman banner and released by RKO in the summer of 1952, was successful in every way at the box office with critics and at Oscar time when it gathered 4 nominations. So, cast relations, this is the interesting part. Cast relations during production were less than cordial. After several days in San Francisco, Jack Palance refused to reply to Joan's greeting each morning, and this caused a chilly lack of communication between the two stars. Asked why he was so unfriendly to his leading lady, Palance replied that he thought she was insincere. He disapproved of Joan's assistance and said that he regarded her as an aloof movie queen who treated colleagues condescendingly as if they were servants. But he seems to have been remarkably disingenuous. As it happened, he was carrying an affair with Gloria Graham during production. She disliked Joan and tried to throw her off whenever possible. Hence, Palance took Graham's side. Hollywood's history provides a host of such petty animosities and coy tricks. Years later, Graham would thought better of her behavior toward Joan. She told someone that Joan had quietly guided much of her performance in Sudden Fear. Quote by Joan, "It was one of the most harrowing experiences I've ever had. I have played a trapped character before, but never like this. I went through 9 solid days of hysteria, and the closet scene," I forgot to note that scene. That's a great scene, with the little dog. "The closet scene alone took 2.5 days to complete, with one baby spotlight focused on me." Yeah, so no one asked these people for silence. We all knew it was just right for the job. So on the set, everyone was always just quiet. There was never laughing. There wasn't like the typical joking around with the cast and crew. There was none of that. So indeed, everyone was right about Sudden Fear, because it did go on to be a very big hit. It was kind of helped revitalize Joan Crawford's career. But giving it a 2.5 stars, maybe you all won't agree with that. I just think we've seen a lot of movies that are rated at 3 that are just better than this. So let me know what you think in the comments, guys. And here's to another 100 reviews to get to 200 one day.